everyone. Welcome to GameFace, episode 202 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. This is our flagship show for Sifted Games. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Shane Satterfield. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. And alongside me, as always, it's Matt Kyle. Can find him on Twitter at mkyle.
Apparently.
How you doing, man?
I'm all right.
You coming down off of your crazy film project now?
Getting
starting
there.
to regather yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we're not done yet. Like, it's in post-production now. We should be done mid to late May.
Okay.
But, yeah, the director's in England right now, so everything's pretty quiet.
Well, the timing's working out good. I got through the site redesign and relaunching a bunch of shows. You got through your films. And here come the games.
Yeah, finally.
Right in lockstep.
Tonight, Ori and the Will-O-the-Wisp finally in play.
Yep. There's another.
Why is that coming out on Wednesday?
It's weird. That doesn't happen very
bizarre.
often. It is bizarre. And then we had a big launch that happened just about an hour ago that we're going to talk about on the show as well. Mm-hmm. We've got Neo 2 coming very soon. There's tons and tons of games that are coming out, which is great. We made it through. We made it through the desert. Barely. You're absolutely right. Barely.
That was I have never seen a Q1 like this before.
I know.
It's
been a nightmare.
Complete barren wasteland.
It really was.
It was actually timed out pretty well for me in terms of how busy I was with other things, but like, wow.
Yeah, it worked out for me too. On shower duty, we got Mitch Sikorsky. What's going on, Mitch? How you doing back there?
Doing pretty well.
Hey, Mitch, how's it been going for you moving out here and kind of getting thrown in the deep end, working on content with me and all that kind of stuff?
It's been a lot of fun, I'll say first off. I never expected to do something like this. I don't take chances. I don't take big risks. So everything's been working out really well so far. Things have been lining up. I have to do another job to maintain being here in Los Angeles, so I found that. And I'm starting to get my groove in and learning lessons along the way. So you notice sometimes I'll put a piece of content out there that, I can improve on. So it's all working out.
Do you like living in LA? And look at the camera, bro.
Oh, sorry. Hi, guys.
I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm looking at myself on the camera, so I'm self-loathing.
Nobody can see that but you.
Yeah, I really love Los Angeles. It's such a drastic difference coming from a Midwestern state to coming out here. It fits my type of lifestyle that I like, so I am enjoying every bit of it. There's so much to do. I really want to do an episode in HQ about some cool places I've been to here in Los Angeles. So if you ever get to Los Angeles, check them out. So there'll be a lot of fun stuff, but it's so fun exploring a new city. It was overwhelming the first couple days, but thank God Shane has been nothing but amazing. I mean, the dude picked me up from the airport. That's how much this guy is a stud.
And he called me a stud.
Not only that, this guy...
I like this guy.
This guy looked at apartments for me,
yeah.
And I definitely sent him to one that we think was ran by the Russian mafia.
It definitely was run by the Russian mafia.
Spoilers, they're all run by
You're welcome to LA. It's either the Russian mob or China.
I've never had a landlord in LA that wasn't Russian.
Yeah, it's true. My new one is not, but his wife is. That's funny to think
I married
about.
into it.
That's hilarious. I never even thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Anyway, Mitch is going to be with us from here on out. He's going to be a big part of GameFace. Also, if you guys have been watching Sifted HQ, obviously he's a big part of that as well. I just launched a new episode of that this morning. 2 brand new segments in this week's show that have not been in prior episodes, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep debuting new stuff. We have like a core of 4 segments that are going to be in every show, and then we'll rotate stuff in and out as it works. I'm really happy with how that show's turning out. I think the 3rd episode, we're finally starting to hit our stride production-wise, and check it out if you haven't already. I'm really proud of it, and Mitch should be too. He's done a lot of work on it as well. Starting tomorrow, Pactor Factor goes daily, people. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's going to be 1 question per episode. Which means some episodes will be like 5 minutes. Some of them will be like 40 minutes. We cut a lot out of his responses when we do the full show, because if we didn't, some episodes would be like an hour long.
But now it's uncut.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, we'll still edit it just to be professional, but you'll get his full unfiltered opinion, whereas before, I don't know if you want that, but
Yeah, You cut out all the really obscene parts.
I really do. I'll be honest with you. If you guys only knew the stuff that I cut out of Factor. So a lot more of that stuff will be in there. But anyway, the show's going to be mostly daily. We'll be publishing 4 episodes a week. So 4 out of 5 days, we'll have a new episode of Factor. And for those of you who have been subscribing via Twitch Prime, there's a bunch of you guys who did it while we were gone, actually. And I want to thank you guys on camera. Eagles Fan 76, Dr. Panda Khan, Funky, Hand Me Food, all those guys subscribe via Twitch Prime while we've been away. And a bunch of people at the top of the show did it. Casualty, Emperor Dread.
Casuality.
My apologies. So if you guys are subscribing via Twitch Prime, you get Factor a week early now. And so if you are subscribing and going to our Twitch channel to consume that stuff, the first day you're just going to have that first topic, and it's going to be 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. But then the next day, there's going to be another episode there for you that people on YouTube still aren't getting. So
Mike's Q has a good question there. Can we get Patreon only Pack After Dark uncut?
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'll say this: when I shoot with Pactor, I'll walk away from there and I'll be like, "Is he okay with that?" Seriously.
Yeah.
Because if it were me and I had been on camera and said the stuff that he says sometimes, I would walk away being like, oh my God, what have I done? And if it was like in someone else's control, I would freak out. Because
that's the good part of being that old, though.
he
doesn't
care. Give a crap. He's over
it. He's done it all.
He is definitely over it. But anyway, he's going to be a part of Sifted and our Patreon pretty much every day going forward. We'll be shooting a new round of episodes probably late next week, so look for questions for that. But
gonna do another boat episode sometime?
Probably not. That was a nightmare.
That was a ride.
It was hard to do that episode in many, many ways, so probably not. The other thing that I would say, too, is that he's going to get, like, Sifted HQ, Pactor's going to start going to, like, a season structure. So his episode numbers are not going to keep going up. So I think the last numbered one's going to be, like, 179, and then it'll go Season 5, Episode 1. It's hard to believe it's been, like, 5 years of doing the show. But anyway, big changes coming, more changes coming still to Sifted. Hope you guys are still enjoying the site. It seems like you are. But we need to get on with this show because GameFace is now an hour and a half-ish, and we have, like, 9 topics for today's show. So if you do the math,
that's pretty fast
we
for
need,
us.
We need to get going, absolutely. So we're going to kick things off with what I think is the biggest story, and I think Matt will agree with me on this one.
I agree with it because I was right.
Absolutely. You know, people say a lot of stuff on podcasts. They predictions, pull stuff out of their butt, hope. Sometimes they're just hoping that something's going to happen, and they're trying to start that inertia to will it into being. Matt, you nail shit all the time. And I don't know if
that is correct.
He really does. Like I don't know if you're using inside information sometimes. Maybe
sometimes I am. This time I am not. It just made way too much sense to not be true.
But like a month ago, I think it was.
Yeah, beginning of the year, it was one of our when we first came back from Christmas. It was one of our.
It was one of your predictions. He said that a Star Wars game was going to come out this year
that we didn't know about.
And I thought it might be possible, but I'll be honest with you, I thought you were wrong, and you were not. So this week, a game on PlayStation Network in Europe leaked. It is called Star Wars Project Maverick. First of all, it's very strange that it's called Project Maverick, and they already had a listing on PSN.
Yeah, the fact that they listed under
a working name,
probably? Title is interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, my hope is that Maverick is a Top Gun reference, and this is an X-Wing TIE fighter thing.
Yeah. The art.
Especially because there's a new Top Gun movie this year, so that would kind of maybe be on somebody's mind.
Well, the art that they've released, this is all we have from the game, what you're seeing, this still right here, that they snagged from PlayStation Network. This is all legit.
Yeah.
This isn't like some fan mock-up. From the art, it looks like you may be right. Like it may be some kind of a dogfighting
Maybe.
game.
I can't tell what I'm looking at, really. To me, it looks
like there's a Star Destroyer there.
It's behind the K.
It's behind the K there.
I see.
But I don't see a ton of ties or anything like that.
It looks almost planet like it looks like it's like hovering over Mustafar or something. The lava.
They
planet.
Actually, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've already figured that out. That doesn't mean that it's set entirely there, but it is apparently going to be a part of the game. How do you feel? First of all, Matt, take a victory lap. You got it right. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like I don't think anyone else probably predicted that something like this was going to happen this year.
Most informative gaming podcast.
That's right.
Even when we're accidental about it.
I mean, seriously, a lot of the time, our experience being in the industry for so long leads us to these conclusions. It's a preponderance of experience that we have dealing with lots of different people, lots of different organizations, I would say that when we do make predictions, our predictions are pretty well informed.
Yeah.
And more so than someone who has only really been into this for a few years or whatever. And sometimes we hit it because we're using a lot of information to make those predictions. And you absolutely hit this one. Now that you know a little bit about it, though, what are kind of one of your hopes and dreams for it?
I mean, obviously, my hope and dream is a more TIE fighter. My fear is that it's like some kind of small-scale indie-style mobile gamey thing.
I
mean, obviously not mobile gamey because it's on PSN, but like I wonder about the scale of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How would you feel if it was like a smaller indie-style game? Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like, just more Star Wars content, please. Like, EA has been so weird and slow about getting any kind of Star Wars game out in the... How long has it been since they've had that license for what, 7 years now?
Yeah.
And we've gotten like three games.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, anything at this point. I don't care if it's designing dresses for Ewoks.
Leia
I don't care. Like anything that gives me some gaming content in the Star Wars universe, I will take.
I agree with you 1,000,000%, and I have no idea why EA has not pushed like smaller games in the Star Wars universe.
I don't know. I mean,
doesn't mean that they have to be bad.
I mean, they've got like the mobile stuff, like the Galaxy of Heroes or whatever. Like that's done well and stuff like that is there. But that's not what I want to play. You know,
Yeah.
It's just I don't want to play reskinned versions of mobile games I already dislike. You know, if I wanted to do that, I'd be playing that terrible Transformers fighting game, Forged to Fight or whatever.
Yep. Oh, there's tons of stuff like that
yeah.
on mobile.
So I just hope it's an interesting new idea. I mean, you know, even if they're just doing, you know, EA doesn't do weird one-off indie stuff all that often, but when they do, it's stuff like Unraveled or like
quality usually,
you know, fun stuff and interesting takes on things, and I would like to see them apply that to Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't see any reason not to.
I would like to see like a Metroidvania set in the Star Wars, 2D like action adventure with Metroid style level design. Like it would be great.
That Boba Fett Metroidvania done. How's that not greenlit 10 years ago?
And look, you can just throw all the names and genres into a blender and just start spitting out combinations, and I'm there.
Or make like, you know, the Super Nintendo. You remember the Super Nintendo, Super Star Wars and all that?
Yeah.
Make those, but out of the prequels.
Yeah.
Make versions of those out of the prequels.
I don't understand why EA's not doing this. I don't get it. Do you think maybe there's a deal with some other company for smaller stuff?
I think it's just EA's inability to read the room, frankly. I think it's EA's focus that's been there for years and years on things that blow up and make this amount of money, and especially when it comes to this big license, they want to have this thing, you know, they want every game they put out to sell 15 million copies like Battlefront 1 did.
Yep.
But you're never going to match that on the regular basis because that was riding the wave of Force Awakens hype, and you're never going to get there again, you know?
Well, maybe in 5 years they do.
Maybe 5 years when you know, Mandalorian...
If they even have the license then.
Yeah, that's a good question. But you have to be... I mean, it really looks from some of the job postings and sort of some of the internal machinations at Lucasfilm that they're sort of reforming a kind of LucasArts-ish pod in there. Because if I were them after this experience with EA, I would just be saying, hey, let's just contract out the developers we want to make each game project we come up with. Like that would be... Which is the old LucasArts model, like, and that pretty much worked, like, for a long time until they started being really weird. The new president guy started being really weird about what got funding and what didn't, and we didn't have any Star Wars games for like 8 years.
Iger left Disney, right? What's his name?
Bob Iger is the head of Disney.
He left, right?
Well, he didn't leave. He's going to be there till the end of next year. But he's stepping down. He's still running creative till the end of 2021, but he is stepping down as CEO, and it's going to be a gradual transition to whoever the new guy is.
Will that change anything?
Not really.
Yeah,
Lucasfilm is a completely independent entity. Like that's the thing I learned working on that show like 5 years ago is because there's times when like Lucasfilm wanted a thing that changed and stuff, and we at one point we were frustrated and we kind of said to Disney like, hey, can't you just tell them what to do because you own them? They're like, nah, it don't work like that.
Yeah.
Like people that blame Disney for like things they don't like in Star Wars or even Marvel just don't know how that works. Like the Disney's held companies have a lot of creative freedom.
Maybe we should explain why we think the game's going to be small and maybe not be this big budget AAA game. And at least for me personally, it's because Motive hasn't been around all that long. And so to me, for them to have a big budget AAA game ready to go by the end of this year, it just doesn't seem plausible.
Well, it depends. We don't know what they've been working on, like kind of in side projects, or what maybe this could even be something that they'd already kind of pre-produced and prototyped while making the other game that got canned or got moved over to EA Vancouver when Amy Hennig left and Visceral got shut down. So like you don't know, like this could have been sort of on deck for something, and they just decided as long as all this stuff fell apart, just greenlight that Maverick thing and just go.
Yeah.
For all we know, this could end up being that Wing Commander. You remember that stupid Wing Commander arcade thing?
Yeah.
On Xbox 360,
Yeah.
It turned out to be basically like a twisted metal with like spaceships and no Z-axis.
Yeah.
Like it could be that.
It could.
We don't know.
You're absolutely right. So when I first kind of figured out that this wasn't going to be like this gigantic blockbuster game,
Yeah, this isn't going to be Fallen Order 2 or anything.
I was disappointed at first. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, if this is truly a paradigm shift for how EA is going to handle that license, then I'm okay with it. And I think I would rather have this small game if it indeed portends to something bigger than some gigantic blockbuster that we get once and then it doesn't change anything for another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's tough being a Star Wars lover to deal with how EA has handled everything, but this may be the first step, at least in my opinion, and kind of in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a second step. Like the first step was making Fallen Order at all.
Yeah.
And then the success of that means we are almost certainly going to get more Star Wars single-player experiences from them, which is good because that's what I want.
Me too. I'd agree with that. I don't need...
And I'm hoping that KOTOR remake thing comes to light at some point in the next few months because that seems to be... That's the other thing that I've noticed because I also pay attention to Star Wars toys, which you may not be shocked to learn. Two things coming in the pipeline for the toy side. They are making a Revan saber replica.
Oh, wow.
That is super high-end. Like, they make high-end replicas of various sabers anyway. This is the first one I can remember in a long time that is not movie or TV-based. That is a completely game... And also, mind you, non-canon.
Right. Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
Although... in the visual dictionary for Rise of Skywalker, they list all the Sith legions, the Red Stormtroopers. Each legion is named after an ancient Sith Lord, and the third legion, I believe, is called the Revan Legion. So KOTOR's back, baby, and so they're making the lightsaber, and it's gonna you'll be able to take it apart and swap crystals, so it will be purple or red depending on which crystal you have in it. And then they are making a light side good Jedi Knight version of Revan as an action figure. And I'm like, that's a lot of Revan product coming later this year if there's no KOTOR in the pipeline. I'm just saying.
It's coming.
It's in there.
Yep. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about Stadia, which has been, I would argue, pretty much an unmitigated...
There's a jump in height.
Yeah, there really is. Which I would argue has been pretty much an unmitigated disaster to this point.
I don't know anyone who doesn't work for Google who would disagree with that.
There are really no games for the system still. We made a joke when we were waiting to go live about they were trying to spell Stadia and use a game for each letter.
Like they were trying to spell your name and with each letter use the title of a video game name. And on they listed Stadia, and they were clearly sticking to games that they have on Stadia. And when it got to I, it was just an emoticon of someone shrugging.
There's no game.
And someone responded, "You should probably have waited to tweet this until you had a game that starts with I in your library," which I thought was very fun. I believe had more likes than the original tweet.
Yeah.
So that's how you know you got nailed.
Well, there's only 30 games available for it roughly right now.
There's no movement.
You don't even have enough games. You barely have enough games to fill out the alphabet.
Yeah. Well, and they don't even someone asked on one of the Reddit AMAs a month ago, when am I going to be able to pay for the 4K or be able to subscribe and get and play with my own controller? And their response we don't know yet, but it's coming. And it's how do you not know that?
It's so bad.
It's bizarre.
Well, adding to whatever is bizarre and how they're running their business is that this week it was announced that Shannon Studstill, who has run Sony Santa Monica forever, has been poached from Sony, and she is moving over to Stadia to start a brand new studio here in Los Angeles to create exclusive games, and she's also going to have a focus on working with the unique technology of Stadia. So a lot of the stuff that they showed us when they first showed Stadia, the whole YouTube integration where you can watch a YouTuber play a game and then you can buy the game from right there and then launch the game, all that stuff still hasn't happened. And it appears that she's going to be one of the shepherds for that technology into the actual marketplace, which I would argue is probably not a great use of her time.
Although I mean, if they're paying her a ton of money and stock options, and hopefully she comes out of this real well paid.
Oh, I mean, I don't think she'll ever have to. Right now, she doesn't have to worry about money.
No, but like this hopefully is a very lucrative deal because I don't see any way to pull this thing out of its nosedive.
I don't either.
But,
Jade Raymond apparently is her boss because when they hired her, the quotes were from Jade Raymond. So it appears that Jade is going to be supervising her. I don't know if that makes sense. But
I don't know. I mean, I still got my eye on whatever Jade's working on. Whenever she puts something out, like Stadia's got my attention for that day. At least.
Of course, absolutely. But I would argue that probably Shannon has had more success in the industry than Jade.
In terms of like actual like this, yeah. I mean, just in terms of hit after hit after hit, yeah.
Yeah. Still, I mean, first of all,
I don't think I've ever. Jade's never made anything I disliked at all.
Me either.
But like, the output from Sony Santa Monica is just constant.
Yeah, and amazing. And one thing I would say, and look, we bang on Stadia all the time, but whenever they do something right, I want to compliment them as well. I like that Stadia is being diverse with its hiring. Like, I love that there are 2 women pretty much as the head of original content for Stadia. That's great. That's going to bring new perspectives to the games that we play. It's good to see at least one platform kind of focusing on women as in leadership roles. I'm really excited about that. But shouldn't Shannon have been hired like
2 years ago? Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Like, that's what I'm worried is like, we had nothing to do with Shannon and her ability or lack of, there's nothing about that. It's just, is it too little too late?
Yeah.
Is it a thing where especially because Google is not afraid to pull plugs on things. We know that. There's a whole site dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And it would just suck to assemble this team of really talented people, especially Jade and Shannon, and not let them. That's what I'm worried about. Is like again sort of like what happened with Jade at EA. Like, is she going to work really hard on something we're never going to get to see?
Yeah, it's possible. It could absolutely happen. One thing I would say is it does make me feel like Google is placing a little bit of a longer bet on Stadia.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope here. I think.
So
it sounds like you probably at least have 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
If they're making this move now.
Yeah, there's no way that if they're going to hire her and build a team to make a game, they're not going to pull the plug on Stadia until that game comes out.
Yeah, you can't expect results from this move for 2 or 3 years minimum.
So if you're interested in Stadia, this should inspire a little bit of confidence that it's not just going to go away. And I guess the thing too is that there's not much commitment there anyway. So if you want to,
and hopefully it can change.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is like Stadia can change and mutate into what it needs to be as the market dictates or as their research dictates. So hopefully this is sort of step 1 in molding Stadia into something that somebody would want.
Yeah. And we always say a platform is just a piece of plastic and transistors until it has a killer app. And both these women are absolutely capable of creating games that become killer apps. Literally games that are so good that even people like you and I who are not sold on Stadia will see that game and be like, "Oh, I'm in." So it's a smart hire. It just seems like it's coming way too late. And maybe they were targeting her all along and she just wasn't ready to leave Sony. Who knows? There may be stuff going on behind the scenes.
But you have to continually ask about Stadia, like, what was the plan?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there was
even
one.
Just launching it when they did, like, you clearly weren't ready to follow up with that.
It was almost like they said, we made the announcement and now we have to launch it to save face.
It was like the tech was in place, but nothing else was there.
Yeah. And still, it's not.
Yeah.
So I wish them luck. I don't wish ill will on any company. I want every company in this industry to thrive. And I will say this, even though it's a little late, this is a smart move for Stadia. It's not going to hurt, that's for sure. It's only going to help. So,
another platform to give talented developers a place to make games with freedom, creative freedom that maybe other publishers wouldn't afford them. That's a good place to be too.
Absolutely.
You're seeing some of that from Apple Arcade as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. These guys coming into the industry in some ways are doing things better.
Yeah.
But in some ways doing things way worse.
But like it doesn't help if it doesn't catch on.
Yep, you're right.
So.
Well, and also if you think about it, Shannon helped turn around Sony Santa Monica. Like they were at a point where they were very stagnant with God of War and found a way to re-energize a franchise. So if there's anyone that can help make Stadia more exciting in any capacity with new properties, Shannon might be the one to do it.
Did she revive Sony Santa Monica? I mean, I don't know it was ever dead.
I don't think it was in dire straits or anything, but like
all their games have sold over 10 million copies.
At the very least, she did supervise the revamping of one of their most proven franchises into something completely different, which at least takes vision.
Yeah, but I would say to me, her biggest accomplishment there was navigating key departures.
Yeah.
Because you had big developers leaving the studio. You had Stig leave. You had David Jaffe leave.
Navigating big departures and handling upper management of Sony, because as we all know, Sony can be
It's true. Yeah.
difficult at times, especially when it comes to kind of the interface between the home office in Japan.
Yep. So big move, smart move. I think we all agree, and we'll cross our fingers and hope that it pays dividends. Because I still want to keep my mind open to Stadia, that it can be a success.
Yeah.
It can be something that I want to use. So.
I want to play another game by Jade Raymond.
Exactly, and that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. So what are you going to do? We're going to have to jump in at some point. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about E3 2020 again, because every week something new happens that I would say destroys my hope that it's actually going to happen. So every week there's some new detail that pops up. Somebody leaves or something happens that erodes my trust that E3 2020 is actually going to be a thing. And this week, I Am 8-Bit, the company that the ESA had hired to basically decorate E3 and create a completely different vibe at the show, resigned. And to reiterate, again, we are friends with the people at I Am 8-Bit. John Gibson, I've known for literally like 15 years. He's the founder of I Am 8-Bit. I've worked with them a ton. They came in and decorated our offices at Game Trailers. They're great people. They're really talented. And
Make some really good vinyls.
Yep, and they bailed. What does this tell you, Matt?
It tells me that E3 is in danger.
Yes, like grave danger.
Like someone made a photo macro of Ralph from The Simpsons, except it stuck the E3 logo over him and it just said, "I'm in danger." And I'm like, yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
I mean, especially the last line on I Am 8-Bit's like announcement tweet, which was basically like, "We wish them the best of luck in their endeavor," which is a pretty standard, like boilerplate like thing when you part ways in business with someone. But for some reason, this time it felt real ominous.
It really did. Why do you think this has happened? Do you think I Am 8-Bit is just following the crowd and getting out, or do you think there were conflicts over creative
that
differences?
doesn't sound like I Am 8-Bit to me. This feels like, especially this far out and this relatively short after the announcement that they were going to do it, to me this sounds like they saw what kind of a shit show this thing was going to be and how out of touch the ESA is on what it needed to be, and just decided, no, we can't. We're not going to put ourselves through this. We don't want our reputation to suffer from being part of this, and we got to go.
Yeah.
Like, that would be, I mean, I have no evidence of that. I do not have any insider info on that kind of thing. But if my guess from knowing how the ESA rolls and how I Am 8-Bit rolls and sort of the timing of this says to me that this is I Am 8-Bit saying, like, yeah, we got to bail because this is not going to work.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think the admittedly very older, stodgier folks at the ESA, my guess is that I Am 8-Bit came in to do exactly what they thought they were supposed to do, which is save this frickin' show, turn it upside down, make it something different, make it something that consumers want to go to. And
make it something that pops and makes you say, like, oh, wow, look at this.
Yeah.
And honestly, make it something that people want to go to again.
Right. And my guess is the people at the ESA were like, whoa. Slow your roll there. We don't, first of all, we don't get this. Second of all our friends in this industry are just as old as us.
Wait. What is a pixel?
Exactly. But look, I could see I Am 8-Bit coming in and being like, okay, so we're going to have a stage over here where we're going to have a DJ, and we're going to have a stage over here where there's going to be bands. In between, there's going to be like these like I could see them having these gigantic ideas.
Yeah, like huge like blow-ups of like this like amazing art. And so, like basically like, what if you made the whole lobby look like something that resembled like the end of the Pixel art gallery? Into some,
here's what I would
over on the side or something. Like there's tons of things you could do to really revamp this thing and make it look less like it's just another convention.
Well, I
Am 8-Bit was probably the people to do it.
Yep, I've been in like the electronic music scene, rave scene, whatever you want to call it, since 1993, and I don't go to a lot of big festivals anymore. I used to go to some of them because I can get in free. I have a friend who works for a big production company here called Insomniac, and he can get me into like EDC and all their big raves. And you go to one of those, and you see how they decorate. And then you look at E3, and you're just like, wait a minute, who's dropping the ball here? Because they will go to a fairgrounds where there's just nothing but a flat piece of grass, and they will create a world literally a world with just gigantic installations. It's a lot like Burning Man, but it's they bring it all in and they can set that up in 3 days, have the party, the rave for 2 days, and then tear it down in 2 days, and they're out of there. If they can do that, what is the ESA's excuse for why E3 looks exactly the same every year and has for like forever?
Yeah.
There's no theme to it. Like even Tokyo Game Show, which I will fully admit is a dumpy show. Like at least they theme the show every year. There's like some kind of like a through line that is a part of that entire show. E3 does nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's the lack of creativity.
E3 feels like a parent that like is just like expects you to be grateful that you can hang out in their living room.
Right. It's the dad who's like, I bought you a keg of beer. What more do you want?
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, and so I could totally see knowing these guys.
That is a really good description of E3.
It is.
Like in terms of like what it's like to be there.
Yeah. It's like, there's a keg of beer. Get yourself a solo cup and start drinking.
It took them, like 2 years to figure out how to manage lines
Right,
properly when they
right.
started letting the public in.
And I'm sure I am a bit rolled in there, and they're like our age. They're not young and foolish. They're not old and like set in their ways. They're wise. They've been in the industry for a long time.
They're the perfect age, just like us.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. But what I'm saying is they're at that perfect zenith of knowing a lot and not being old enough to where you've kind of closed yourself off to new ideas. That's where you want to be.
But I'm like 4 years away from that, and I can't wait. Can't wait to not listen to anything ever again.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. We're almost there.
And my guess is that they rolled in there with these big ideas. The ESA, maybe even if the ESA just pushed back a little bit, like if they don't have to say, no, we're not doing any of that. I feel like if the ESA was just like, well, we like these 2 things, but the other 10 things, and I think that would have been more than enough to get them
especially
off
because
the
like I
project.
feel like if you're IM8-bit, maybe I'm misreading IM8-bit tremendously here, but I feel if I'm in IM8-bit's position, I feel like I'm the one doing them the favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and I think that's the way Keeley felt too.
Yeah, you're probably
with
right.
the Coliseum and
You're probably
everything.
right.
Yep, and I think a lot of people feel like they've been doing. And I'll be honest with you, the fact that I found out that like hardly any journalists get into free for E3, that completely changed my perspective of the show. Completely. That's when I really understood
You
where
paid to have your.
people are paying them money to give them coverage.
Yep.
The ESA
Aren't you supposed to disclose that according to the?
You are, according to laws, yeah. The ESA
FCC?
needs to get way younger. And at this point, you don't have to go that much younger. And there are people like us, and I'm not saying they should hire us.
Yeah,
but
not it.
not it. But there are tons of people like us who get it, who have been in the industry long enough, who have worked in business long enough to understand what is or is not possible, and can formulate a plan that is both doable and is going to resonate with the younger audience and the people who are trying to get into the show. That place just needs gutted.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And honestly, like, you could probably cancel or postpone E3 because of the coronavirus, and it would arguably be the best thing that could happen to it.
Yeah.
Because you have an excuse to not put it on now.
So that's
As
my final
opposed-
question.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen?
I think there's a very decent chance that we don't have an E3 this year.
I believe so,
Or at the
too.
very least, there's no show, but like everyone does everything
They still do their
as directs or
Nintendo
something.
Directs and all that stuff.
And or like don't have.
It's like a week of reveals,
Yeah,
but
like
there's
nobody
no
does.
physical
Nobody does a
location.
live audience show.
Yeah.
This time they just.
There may not be any live audience shows at all in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about like playing NHL games without fans in the stands right now.
Yeah, I saw that. And Ohio is already starting to pass a thing. I think they're talking about today about no more fans at sporting events.
Yes, the San Jose Sharks are going to play games in an empty arena. How bizarre is that? It could happen to the NBA playoffs too. So I would say the chances of E3 happening right now are at about 25%.
Yeah, they're
we
not
would need
great.
a drastic turnaround of.
I mean, look, they killed South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And Coachella.
Yeah,
like,
Coachella's still
postponed to October.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they pushed it.
I saw yesterday that they were saying it looks like it's going to get postponed.
No, they postponed
and
it
they
to
did.
October.
Wow.
My favorite tweet about that was somebody tweeted, "Is like, God, I hope Coachella doesn't get canceled because I love when those people are gone for a while."
That's great. I haven't gone to Coachella.
I think that's a
in,
New
like,
York specific thing.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't gone to Coachella in like 5 years. I haven't.
Yeah.
Just the lineups just haven't appealed to me, and it's a It's a dust up going there, man.
It's
literally and figuratively.
It's a trip.
It is.
In multiple forms of the word.
Many ways. Yeah. It's fun, though. So if any of you guys out there are thinking about going to Coachella someday,
it's a young man's game.
I had gone like 7 years in a row at that point, and now it's like if there's not bands I want to see, I'm not just going for the experience now. Yeah. So anyway, things
if I
are
want
not
to pay $7 for water, I can do that in LA.
things are not looking good for E3 2020. What do you think? What kind of impact would that have on the industry if it doesn't happen?
I think the main impact would be that when it has no impact on sales later in the year, everyone realizes they don't need E3
It may never come back.
just like Sony.
Yeah, it's possible. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about an auction, but not just any auction. An auction for a one-of-a-kind piece of hardware, literally one of a kind, the Nintendo PlayStation. This, for those of you who don't know, was a joint project between Nintendo and Sony before it kind of in between the Super Nintendo and the N64 and the PlayStation.
Like this is what Nintendo's next system was going to be after the Super Nintendo, pretty much.
In conjunction with Sony, obviously.
Yeah. And the results, the split that happened as a result of this was what convinced Sony to make their own console.
Right. What the footage you're seeing right now, and we did put up kind of a note, but I want to say it on the show as well. I want to thank the Ben Heck Show for the footage of this, because there's no other real good footage of it online. So thank you very much for supplying this to us. What happened was we've known about this console for a long time.
Yeah.
We knew it was a project and that there were some prototypes made, but everybody thought that they had all been destroyed because Sony said they had all been destroyed. But as it turns out, a few months ago, a son was looking through his dad's attic and he came across this. And he was like, what the hell is this? And he goes to his dad. His dad is like, oh, I bought that at an estate sale for $75 years ago.
Wow.
And I threw it up in my attic. I had no idea what it was. His son finds it and is like, Dad, you have like the most rare console in the world. And at first, the son didn't believe it. He's like, this can't be true. Like, because there's no prototypes. Everybody knows that there are none that exist. Turns out there was one that survived, and his father had it. And I guess initially, people were making offers to his dad for this. He said his highest offer was $1.2 million for this console.
Wow.
It finally went to auction this past week where it sold for $360,000. So way below one of those initial offers, if that is true, in fact. Maybe he could have been saying that to drive up the auction.
That's
Who knows?
possible. And also, like, just because someone offers you that doesn't mean they're going to pay it.
Exactly, yeah. Because when the rubber hits the road and they have to write that check, some people get cold feet sometimes. And so then, before they even put it up for auction, he took it to the Ben Heck Show. Because if you don't know the Ben Heck Show, if you're into tech, you should know about it already. If you love tech, go watch it right now, and you'll thank me in the comments of this show. In my opinion, he has
a few shows that would have the guts to take that thing apart.
Yep. And I'll say this, the only show where the owner would trust the person to do it.
Yeah.
And so they took it in, they let him completely disassemble it, fix it, and get it to work. So ultimately, and it's like a series of videos, he gets the thing to actually work. So it was a working prototype. This wasn't just an idea that they talked about and they brainstormed about and maybe put a couple like rough mock-ups together. They actually manufactured the hardware for this thing. How different would things be if this had come out? Can you even fathom it?
I mean, not just like Sony not being in the industry, but Nintendo using discs. In the mid '90s,
before the N64.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, this system used both cards,
both of them,
and a disc drive, which
was the Sega model.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
it probably is what Nintendo should have put out instead.
Yeah.
Now, as Ben Heck dug into this, what he did discover is that most of the hardware was basically a Super Nintendo. So it probably wasn't final. Obviously it wasn't final because they never actually mass-produced it. But I think ultimately it would have ended up being different than what that prototype is. But
it seemed like more of an add-on, like a Sega CD thing almost.
Yeah.
It's not, because that's the thing, like Sony with the PlayStation jump-started the move to 3D for consoles, which is probably coming on PC anyway.
Yeah.
But like in consoles, they really jumped in there, and like I think one of the reasons the N64 was the way it was is because Nintendo knew that's the direction that Sony was going to go.
Yeah.
Because
It worked with them.
They knew what they wanted to do. Maybe that was the disagreement at some point.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sega, one of the reasons the Saturn was caught so flat-footed was they didn't realize the Saturn was a super 2D powerhouse. It could make 2D stuff better than pretty much any system on the planet, except maybe a couple of arcade boards at the time. And what they basically had to do when Sega realized that the future was going to be 3D because it was being driven by the PlayStation, they basically bolted 3D hardware to the top of the Saturn's motherboard. It's
For lack of a better
description, that's basically what the Saturn is. It's just like, oh, you need a 3D card on that thing, and that's why it looks so terrible.
Yeah, that's why it also failed.
Yes, and so like, I think if this had come to fruition, the landscape of the 90s in terms of console gaming just would have been completely different because Nintendo would have had the stranglehold on it, and they would have been able to direct where it went.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Sega would have done any better in that scenario. Yeah. They might have still been around past the Dreamcast because they wouldn't have been crushed so much.
By the PlayStation 2.
But I also think it's very arguable that gaming wouldn't have blown up in the mainstream the way it did after Sony kind of turned it into cool. You know,
Thank God this happened. Thank God that didn't come out. I think it's better that this.
Yeah, I think we ended up in a better timeline.
Absolutely.
As a result of that.
The other thing I should add too is that the person who won the auction was the founder of Pets.com, who struck it rich back.
Never thought that would be back in the news, but here we are.
He struck it rich back in the early internet days with Pets.com. Somebody bought it for an ungodly amount of money, and it was closed.
Then it instantly nosedived into the ground.
It was closed like 10 months later or whatever. So he
remember all the Super Bowl ads? For that?
He really got lucky. Yeah. So if I were him, I'd throw money around too, because it's like you basically hit the lottery.
Might as well. Now the one thing I do agree with Chris Kohler and some others who were saying like, because the guy's talking about like opening his own game museum, and Chris Kohler basically said, hey, you know what would be better is people that have all these really rare, valuable gaming history objects could donate them to one of the existing museums that already does a great job, so we could have this amazing collection in one place and not have a bunch of competition on that.
I think
that's not what that should be
he's
about.
going to now.
Did he change his mind on that? All right, that's good.
He's going to donate it to. I mean, what do you think about that? Buying something for $360K and just giving it to a museum.
I mean, he can afford it. And and one assumes that if you bought this for that amount of money, you love games and you love the history of games and you want to see it. Like you bought because you want to see it preserved. You want it to be, you know.
Do you think it was worth that money? Because you got to think about, okay, he won the auction, but there were other people that were bidding it up to that amount. So there was more than one person who thought it was worth this much. What do you think?
I mean, to be honest, something like, a one of a kind, something like this that only, it's a fine 20 some years later. It's basically priceless.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you even put a dollar amount?
The dollar amount on it is how much people were willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Like that's how much that. It's like movie memorabilia. It's like if you find a screen-worn dress from Gone with the Wind, how much is that worth? It's worth however much it goes at auction when you sell it.
Yeah.
Like
there's no way to determine.
There's no way to get. I mean, you can assume bidding starts around 300, 400,000 for something like that, but you never know where it's going.
Yep, it's true.
So honestly, that's a pretty low price for that. I think.
You think?
I mean,
well, I guess if one guy offered him 1.2,
something like that one of a kind, something that like represents this almost mythical period of time when Nintendo and Sony were working together on this thing that we never thought we'd actually get to see or hold in our hands. Like I could have seen that going 500,000, like no question.
Yep.
Like I think that's a pretty good price.
Hey Mitch, what do you think would have happened if that console had come out one day, back in the day?
My entire childhood would be completely different.
Yeah.
Because my first console was a PlayStation. So
it's a lot of people's first console.
And then that skewered my entire childhood to PS2, then PS3. I know I had an Xbox 360 at the time, but so many properties, so many characters. Who know if they would even exist if Sony didn't go its own route?
That's a shame.
We would have not got the great commercials of Crash Bandicoot making fun of Nintendo outside with this microphone speaker thingy.
Possibly a direct result of the breakdown of this project.
It could be
Crash
possible.
caused it all.
Yeah. Matt, even if you had unlimited amounts of money, would you ever spend that much money for a console?
For that? No, probably not. I mean,
like if you had his money, would you have bought this for $360K?
I think I might have if I felt like the other people that wanted it were not going to treat it correctly.
Good point. Yeah.
Like if I felt like
someone was going to get it or
start
a YouTube channel.
or like just like keep it for themselves or like dismantle it or like like smash it with a hammer or something.
Because they were like a Nintendo fanboy or something.
Like that would be like something I might if
to protect it.
Yeah, if I was never gonna miss the money, I might. Like I think Palmer Luckey was one of the high bidders at one point. I might step in to save it from him. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But like it would be like I want to preserve this historical object thing, not like I think it's worth that to spend that amount of money on this thing to keep in my living room. Like that would be two very different things.
Yep. Speaking of history, our next topic is all about history as well, but it's ancient history. This week it was announced that Ghost of Tsushima finally has a release date. It's June 26th, right in the smack dab in the middle of summer. Were you surprised that we got this date? I was really starting to think that it would be end of year, PS4, PS5 kind of cross.
I thought that was possible. I think when we talked about it before, I guessed it was going to be like an August, September, or kind of a kickoff for the holiday season game.
Yeah.
Because I think we maybe said last year sometime that it was possible it could be like Sony's sort of June E3 around release, because they did release Last of Us 1 in June.
Yep.
Like I think I remember I actually went and picked up my copy at GameStop in West Hollywood right after like the last day of E3, because they're doing a midnight launch and Troy Baker was signing stuff, so I went to see him and have him sign my box and everything.
Yep.
And so it was literally the week of E3. Because I went on the way home from the convention center.
Show, yeah.
So it's not impossible but when Last of Us 2 slipped to May, I thought that the chances of a June Tsushima probably went away, and they pushed it to August.
Because who would think that they would go
out.
back to back with two huge first-party exclusives that everyone has been waiting literally like
years for. I wouldn't have, but I'm glad they are, because we get them sooner. This is my probably most anticipated game right now. I mean, I know I probably should be more excited about Cyberpunk, but I'm not, because I love Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to play something by Sucker Punch again.
Well, I had an epiphany today.
And God, this game is gorgeous.
It is. I had an epiphany today, taking a shower, getting ready for the show, and I was thinking about Naughty Dog and Rockstar and how generally they make games that are kind of a cut above all the other developers. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, but they get 8 years to make a game.
Mm-hmm.
So
it better be.
Right. So look at Sucker Punch. How long has it been since their last release? 3 years?
What was their last release? Like the standalone thing for infamous Second Son?
Yeah.
With the standalone with the girl with the neon powers? Yeah, so that was like 2014?
Yeah, so it's been 5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting a lot of time, too. My question to you is, are these studios actually better than other studios, or are they just getting so much time that, like, if you couldn't make a game that good in that amount of time, maybe you should find another vocation?
I mean, that's a cynical but probably fair statement, but at the same time, you still have to execute. You still have to do it.
But when you have 8 years to do it, it's like, you look at like a game like Doom Eternal.
We'll see how Star Citizen turns out.
Yeah, well, look, some things are beyond help. Right. Or sometimes the scope and ambition outstrips your abilities or your time. But
how many years was Final Fantasy 15 in development?
Yeah, right. And it ended up being crap still. Mm-hmm. Well, not crap, but
I think it was.
It certainly wasn't.
You don't dislike that game as much as I do.
Yeah,
but
it certainly wasn't worthy of the development time. I would definitely.
I would say the same
that.
thing is true of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yep, I would agree with that as well.
And they had much more of a template to follow than they do for Ghost of Tsushima.
It's just, I think about Ubisoft teams. You think about like the teams that are working on games like Doom Eternal, where they take 2 or 3 years and they make amazing games. Are they Grand Theft Auto level? Are they The Last of Us level? No, they're not quite there. Red Dead Redemption, no. But dude, they did it in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just sort of, that's Sony's MO these days, is these boutique, like brag-worthy game. They want these games they can have. They want games they can put into a display case and say, "Look what's on our console."
I totally get that, and it's a smart strategy for Sony.
If you have the money for it, yeah.
I think today I realize there's like a lot of hero worship around those studios that get all that time to make games. I don't know if it's really warranted, because
also, I mean, remember, I don't like Uncharted 4, so I don't think it works out every time.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, a theme or something like that for a lot of people can just completely destroy the enjoyment of a game. But it's
or a Sam.
But if you ask most people, like, what's the best developer in the gaming industry? They'll say, like, it's Naughty Dog or it's Rockstar North.
I wouldn't say I'm not very.
But are they?
I'm not very comfortable with that question because I don't know enough about game development to say who the best is.
That's fair.
I can name you my favorites.
Yeah.
But like, one of my favorites, Team Eco, Last Guardian. Not so good.
That
had
took
a lot of
long
years.
time too. Yeah.
Like it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, it
like
doesn't.
you do still have to have the vision and the talent and then just the ability to step away from it enough to know what's good and what isn't. And that's
Still
hard.
have to be a tastemaker.
Yeah, and that's hard. Like it's hard to know when you're working on something for any length of time whether it's good or not. I'm in the middle of that right now with the short films. That happened. Years and years ago, I was at a Christmas party and ran into James Gunn. And he was in the middle of making Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And I'd met him a couple times at G4 because we'd interviewed him for things and Lollipop Chainsaw.
I worked with him for 2 days.
You worked with him for a while, yeah.
For 2 days straight at AVN in Vegas.
And I went up to him and I asked, how's it going? Because I was interested because, I didn't know much about that Marvel property. I'm like, and he was like, I hope it's good. I think we're working it. We're editing it right now. Like they're letting me do whatever I want, and I think it's gonna be cool. I think it is. I can't tell because I'm making it, and it's like. And I always remember that because it always makes me feel better that even like someone who has as the experience and talent of James Gunn, who and the Guardians 1 is a great superhero movie, and like even if you're working on that, you're still not sure because you're so close to it.
Well, you don't know until you snap it all together.
Yeah,
it's like because the way you do projects today, it's like you create these discrete little boxes that you have to complete, and then at the end you start snapping them all together and assembling them. And it's the same thing with like a show, like Sifted HQ. It's like Mitch and I work separately on our own segments for that show. We talk at the beginning of the week, like these are the segments we want in there. And then he and I both go on our own way and just start working on our segments. And like for the first episode, we had all those segments and I'm like, these all seem pretty cool. But what's it like when they all get put together and assembled into a show? And you don't know until you do it. And I was very pleased with how that worked out. But sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes the pieces seem good, and then you put them together, and they're not a great whole. So
yeah, I mean, I'm building that new Lego Star Destroyer right now, and sometimes it's just like
let me just work on this turret.
I don't know what this is, but I hope it
snaps together
into something that looks like a triangle. I don't.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mitch. What did you say?
Sorry. To your initial question, when you said like they take so long to make games, well, the only thing I would counteract with your argument is something like Ubisoft or even Doom. They know what type of property they're making. Sucker Punch made something completely different. Started almost an entire project from scratch in a sense, from superhero games to history in Japan. So I think they allotting more time for that.
That's Sucker Punch, though. What about everybody else? What about Rockstar North? They know what they're making. Naughty Dog knows what it's making.
Yeah, but I would say the Uncharted game came out sooner than this Last of Us Part 2 one did.
Did it? I don't know if it did. They worked on that game a long time, and it was delayed like several times.
I think it was 4 years.
Yeah. About 4 years, I think. That sounds right. And then they got Lost Legacy out pretty fast.
Yeah. Which is
a different team, I think.
Yeah, it was
which is also another reason why the sequel Part 2 took a little bit of time because people were working on Lost Legacy. So there's justification for the time there. It's taken about 4 years.
I also think that Last of Us 2 seems like they've reinvented the wheel pretty strongly.
It does. Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't feel like they just made it again.
Yeah,
and there were hints in some interviews to say that Sucker Punch, when they were working on this project specifically, they had to start all over multiple times because it wasn't working the way they were hoping it to.
It's like they haven't really made an intricate melee combat system before. So this will be interesting to see how that works out.
Yep. Yeah, mostly they've worked with projectile stuff.
Projectiles are like Sly Cooper had melee combat, but it was very simple sort of,
just
platformer style stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I'm really jacked up for Ghost of Tsushima. This summer is going to be amazing. Look, if we don't have E3, at least we're getting Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 to make up for it. I think the rest of the year is pretty much going to be pretty stellar.
Yeah. My other question is we don't know anything Nintendo's got after Animal Crossing.
Yeah. We know Metroid Prime 4 and stuff like that.
Well, we know it's in there, so I don't think Metroid Prime 4 is this year.
I don't either, at all.
But we don't know the rest of the year from Nintendo.
Breath of the Wild 2. 50-50 probably.
Like, we got to get a direct sometime.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they've kind of went through all the stuff they've announced at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they've released it all, which is great. But now,
I guess the
what's next?
Xenoblade remaster is somewhere in here.
Yeah, it'll come out sometime this year. I don't think there's a hard date for it yet.
I don't think so.
But a direct.
I think I would know that because I'm excited about that.
Yep. So anyway, Ghost of Tsushima coming June 26th, and it's a PS4 exclusive for now. PS5 though, it's going to play on PS5.
Everything's gonna play on PS5.
Yep.
Pretty much everything.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about sports. This one might actually be a topic that even people who don't care about sports games all that much might be interested in.
Well, let's see.
We'll see. You might be one of them, actually. It was announced this morning that after a 15-year hiatus, 2K and the NFL have signed a deal to work on games together.
Crazy.
What you're seeing right now
EA losing license exclusivity left and right.
is NFL 2K5. Now, there's a caveat. So, in the announcement today, and I have like the quotes here that I can read you guys just to make sure I get everything exactly right. It's not going to be a football simulation. So, EA...
It's going to be a Star Wars game, believe it or not.
So apparently EA's exclusive license with the NFL is to make a very specific type of football game, which is a simulation. So 2K cannot make NFL 2K20 or whatever, unfortunately.
But they can make like NFL Blitz.
They probably could make like an arcade-style football game, but that does not sound like what they're planning on doing.
An RPG?
David Ismailer, I think that would be great, by the way.
Yeah.
The president
I'd
of
play
2K, David Ismailer, said, "We're thrilled to be back in business with the NFL in a partnership that will span multiple video games centered on fun, approachable, and social experiences." Which leads me to believe mobile games.
Yeah. Mobile game like mingle player.
Like I
build
thought
your football player sort of thing.
But see that so at first I thought it might be like a football manager type thing where you don't actually play the games, you just manage the rosters
this seems too much like
But that's a
Madden's
sim.
coach
I mean, it's a sim.
mode.
That's as sim as it gets. So they can't do anything like that. So I think you're right. I think it's either an arcade style football game in the vein of NFL Blitz or NFL Hits or whatever the hell they ended up being called towards the end there.
NFL Blats.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like kind of what you were saying earlier where you have like apps that let you like design NFL uniforms. Just like I think it's all going to be goofy stuff like that.
Where's the XFL games?
That there are no XFL games, and I would argue that
that started, right?
Yeah,
XFL's
it's now in like
quote unquote
week
back
4, and the ratings have been cut in half every week since the first week. They think it's going to make it to a season 2, which the other league that started last year, the AFL, wasn't able to do. They didn't even make it to week 4 of their season before that league folded.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And so the XFL looks like it's going to stick around for at least a second year. I would not count on any video games being made on
I have a
the
question.
XFL.
Why do the names of sports teams that aren't like the NFL, like when they have the XFL or AFL, like whatever, how come the names of their teams always sound so stupid? Is it just because we're used to the NFL's names?
I think
or is
part
there
of it-
something different about how the NFL names teams?
No, I think part of it is that a lot of the best names have been taken by the NFL already.
Okay.
And another problem, too, is that a lot of team names are based on something regional. So the Steelers, they're from
Right.
Pittsburgh. That was the heart of Steel Country back when the team was formed. So it made sense for them. Like right now, Seattle is getting ready to have an NHL team. And they're trying to decide on the name for the NHL team. And it starts playing, I believe, next year. And the names for the team are, like, insane. It's like Sockeyes, the Krakens, like, just all, but they all relate to Seattle in some way. Even thinking back to, like, when Seattle had an NBA team called the Supersonics.
Supersonics.
Like, what does that even mean? Like,
Didn't they come from somewhere else with that name?
Right. And
Like how we have the Lakers?
yeah. Exactly. And there's no lakes in LA.
Right.
So sometimes you name them based on a regional thing, and then you're right. Sometimes those teams go somewhere else, and it makes even less sense.
Well, I asked somebody once
there's a lot that
why
goes
they're called
into
the Lakers, and they thought it was because Lake starts with L-A.
No.
I'm like, no, that's not it.
I believe because they came from,
Minnesota.
yeah.
Land of Thousand Lakes
Yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Same with like the Dodgers were the Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers.
Right. Yeah. And now
You had to run across the trolley tracks to get to the stadium,
Yep.
and now you're just like, that makes there are no trolleys here.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Utah Jazz.
Right.
The Jazz were originally in New Orleans, and then they moved to Utah, and there's no jazz in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
White people don't like jazz.
Or maybe was the Supersonics named because there's like the Boeing fact? Like
Yeah,
there's like
it's
plane
related
factory
to
up there.
planes. Yeah, that's exactly why. So there's a lot that goes into naming teams. So there's no true and hard rule as to why some teams have goofy names or not. But a lot of it is because at this point, so many team names have been taken. You start thinking about college sports where there's 150 teams and all that stuff's copyrighted. It's like you can't name your team something like that because there's already a team that has it and has the rights to it. So
and sometimes like the weird vague stuff works. Like the Stanford Cardinals, which are not actually named after the bird, they're named after the color.
well, a lot of
Very
soccer
weird.
teams
So the mascot's a tree.
Yeah, a lot of soccer teams are just named like Real Los Angeles.
Right.
Like they don't even really have like a mascot name. So there's no hard and fast rule to how that stuff works. But anyway, back to 2K. To me, this isn't a big deal right now. I feel like 2K, this deal that it signed with the NFL, is just the foot in the door. It's like we need to start talking with you guys again. Because I think 2K
Yeah,
wants...
the hope has to be that they're going to impress the NFL and convince the NFL that they shouldn't be exclusive to anyone anymore.
I think 2K wants to make a football game again, like
Absolutely.
a real one, like a Madden killer.
I don't even care about football, but I want them to make a football game again because I used to like their 2K games.
Well, I mean, so the B-roll that we were just showing you of NFL 2K5 from 15 years ago, that's updated rosters. Lamar Jackson was the quarterback in that footage. People are still playing that game and updating the rosters year after year. And you can go online and get the download just like that, and zap, boom, all those players are in there. So it shows you how much people love that franchise. And so if they can get their foot in the door with the NFL and they start saying, look at how we're doing with these little appy things that we're building for you guys, look at the people who still want us to make NFL games. When those negotiations come up with EA again, the NFL will have a lot to think about. And I think that's exactly what's happening now. I don't think 2K cares if it makes a penny off of this stuff that it's doing with the NFL. I think it's all a Trojan horse to get them back into the good graces of the NFL, get back into the conversation with the NFL so that we can get NFL 2K25 or whatever it ends up being when EA's deal expires. So it's big stuff. It may not seem like big stuff because what's going to come out of this actual deal probably isn't going to be anything that people care about, but what it is leading to on down the road I think could be huge.
Yeah, the reestablishment of that relationship is an important watershed.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about something that people didn't want to believe and ultimately ended up being true. And this is another Jason Schreier story from Kotaku. So once again, we want to give him credit when he breaks something that ends up being true. And that is that Horizon Zero Dawn is absolutely coming to PC. And I guess the uproar on Twitter from the PlayStation fanboys, like when I saw today that Schreier was like, okay, so now that it ended up being true, are all you PlayStation fanboys going to apologize to me now? Of course not. Of course not. That is definitely not going to happen.
This really didn't seem like such a long shot of an idea. Once you
No,
reported
I mean,
it
to
out.
us it didn't.
Yeah.
But if you're a fanboy,
Right.
anything like that seems insane because that's Sony turning its back on you and it's Sony doing bad things to you. And you can't accept that when you're a fanboy. Everything Sony does is right when you're a fanboy. But I would argue this is absolutely right.
There's no reason not to do this.
There's no reason.
Death Stranding got this engine running on PC, and the game is sold what it's going to sell on PS4. You got a sequel in the pipeline that might be as soon as launch this year.
Yeah.
Like, put this thing out there, put it on PC, let people play it, let people play it who haven't played it before. Like, expand your audience, and hey, if they like it enough, they might buy a PS5 for the sequel this fall. Like,
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense. Like, you're not being deprived of anything.
Nope.
Hell, I'm going to get to play it again on PC and look better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited about that.
And that's the thing. It will look a lot
It
better.
will.
It will run a lot
And it already
better.
looks amazing, but it's
It
going to
does.
look even better.
Yeah, it's going to look probably a lot better. Because you got to remember, this game also came out early in the life cycle of PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
so,
this is what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, so Guerrilla at this point, I mean, we saw with Death Stranding.
In fact, I think it's through a third birthday was this past week.
Yeah, I think
or
you're
the
right,
week before.
actually. I think you're right. And I think, we've already seen what Guerrilla is doing on PlayStation 4 in Death Stranding. Its engine, obviously, has made leaps and bounds since this game came out. So it's going to look better on PC. Will it play better? I mean, why not?
Maybe.
You can plug in your PS4 controller if you want to.
Anything you can make run at a higher frame rate is going to play a little better. So.
Yep. Financially, what do you think the implications of this are? And I will say this, PlayStation did go on the record when it was officially announced, and it said this is not the start of, quote, something.
Right.
This isn't, like, don't expect all our games to come to PC in the future.
Which is exactly what I've been saying for a long time since the Death Stranding announcement was made. Because I think this is literally only happening because Death Stranding got the engine running on PC.
Probably.
And it was a simple port.
Yep. And Sony said, like, no, look, we still are a hardware-centric company. We know we need to drive consumers to our own exclusive hardware. Don't expect this to happen with a bunch of other games. Basically, they said, this is an experiment. And we found a game that was perfect for the experiment, where it was low risk for us. And we can see if we start putting our first-party stuff out there so other people can experience it, maybe that person that plays this on PC sees Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is coming to PlayStation 5, and they pick up a PlayStation 5.
And I mean, maybe if this thing sells like 1 million copies, yeah, you're probably going to see more PC versions of PlayStation exclusives, but I don't think it's going to do that. I think you're going to get 200, 300,000 copies of this thing sold, which is plenty.
Yeah, I think Sony just wants to use this as a way to convert people to their platform. Yeah. And it's like, it's 3 years later. If you're a PlayStation fanboy and you haven't played this by now, you're not really a fanboy.
Right.
You played this the day it came out, and you played it for the next 2 months. So I agree with you. I have no idea why these people are complaining. If anything, they should be happy because it's more money for PlayStation. It's more exposure for PlayStation, which it means it's more likely that more people will support PlayStation 5. So I think this is just a good thing all around for everybody involved. It's just salty tears from the fanboys because they lost something that they can't post in a forum anymore that they have that somebody else doesn't have. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's just a team sport.
It is. They're like, oh, I can't say Horizon's only on PlayStation now. I might lose an argument in the forums. Like, that's pretty much what happened with this. So I hope you people do go apologize to Jason. I know you won't, but that's just par for the course working in this industry online. I mean, I've been going through crap like that for over 20 years. So ultimately, people like us know and appreciate Jason Schreier for the job that he does instead of going and berating him on Twitter. I don't know what people are thinking they're going to accomplish.
I have a separate account for that.
I'm wondering what their goal was. Was their goal to, like, in the future, get him to not report stuff like this?
I don't know.
What was the objective? Now I'm going to stop you from reporting the truth.
I guess, like, they believe that reality isn't real until someone perceives it. So Jason needs to stop seeing things that are true because otherwise they won't happen.
It could be. I mean, it really probably is something that insane.
It's very meta.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's going to be good for PlayStation in a number of different ways. I think it's good for Guerrilla. The people that work on the games, their games getting out to new people and new audiences. And really, it's going to be good for everyone to be able to play that game at a level no one's ever been able to.
Yeah, remember that
game is going to be beautiful.
Exclusivity in the end really only benefits the corporate holder of the platform in question. Like, it doesn't help us really.
No, it would be great if we had one console.
Sure.
And I could buy every game on it. I would not subscribe to that. I do like that there's competition because competition breeds innovation and blah, blah, blah. There's a million reasons why we need competition. But
if Sony wants to throw an exclusive on PC every once in a while, that's not a bad thing.
No way. It's all good. And I cannot wait to play this game on my PC with my GTX 1080, which isn't even like a really good card anymore. Still way more powerful than the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
And that game is going to look gorgeous, and I'm really excited about it. So you guys should too. And if none of you guys have played Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm guessing a lot of people, PC gamers, have never played it.
Yeah, I know a lot of PC-centric players who, like, they don't have consoles or they don't have a PlayStation 4, and they're excited about this because that was one of the few games that they saw that were like, oh, I'm interested in that, and now they get to try it.
Yep.
And you know what? Horizon's so good that I could totally see a couple of them playing it and then not being able to wait for 2. And I'm just going to get a PS5 and play Horizon 2.
Yep. And then they'll start buying everything else on PlayStation 5.
And that's how they get you.
And that's how they get you. That's how you win. It's smart. Sony's being...
And fanboys should be happy about that.
Absolutely. Because more money to Sony means more money for software development, more exclusives for you. It's good. It's all good, people. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about... Today's a big Sony-centric show. Yeah. In fact, the last 4 topics have been about
Big change
Sony.
from the last, 5 months.
It really is. We're finally getting some information coming out of that camp. So I was saying earlier about how Naughty Dog takes forever to develop games, and it's been a long time waiting for The Last of Us Part 2. we may have found out why at least it was delayed a little bit, because Naughty Dog has been working with HBO on a series for The Last of Us. Are you excited? Matt, I know you're not a big fan of like zombie movies, zombie TV shows. Will you make an exception for this?
I mean, I will check it out mainly because it's being co-written by the guy who wrote Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a very good show.
He's the head of the whole project, which is huge.
Which I thought was a very good show. And
by the way,
very well
people,
told.
if you have not watched Chernobyl yet on HBO, go watch it right now. In my opinion, the most underappreciated television show from last year.
And it wasn't underappreciated really, but it should
nobody watched it.
Well, because it was HBO.
Yeah.
It was HBO and it wasn't Game of Thrones.
It won awards,
Yeah.
but nobody watched it. It wasn't a part of the zeitgeist. I didn't go on like social media and see people talking about last night's episode of Chernobyl.
I mean, I
because
did.
It was so grim and bleak.
I mean, I did, but I follow a lot of
Yeah.
snobby film
Right.
Twitter people. It's like, but yeah, like you're right. It wasn't the thing that trended as soon as it happened. But it's very well written, very well structured. It tells the story, even as someone who knows that story very well. I've read several books on that, what happened, and I know that it varies from reality here and there in the show, but it doesn't matter because it tells the story incredibly well. It gets the information across in a very engaging and emotionally driven manner. And honestly, I can't think of a better showrunner to take Last of Us, which is a very character-driven story in a very, if we're being honest, mundane setting.
Yeah.
For today's world, the zombie apocalypses are a dime a dozen these days.
Yeah.
And like, he will make this interesting. Like,
Yes.
he will tell this story really well, and he's got Druckmann on.
He will nail the tone.
And so Druckmann will shepherd, the characters, make sure everything's true to form, true to the lore, true to the original stuff. And I mean, it's a bit of a dream team, frankly.
It's the perfect combo.
Yeah.
The fact that Neil Druckmann is involved in this, but
this, by the way, is more interesting than The Witcher in terms of that to me, because The Witcher is drawing from the book source material. It is not a video game adaptation. This could be the first truly great video game adaptation.
This follows the first game. It's set during the first game. We're not 100% sure if that means that it's going to follow the exact plot lines of the game, or if stuff happening around the periphery of the things that happen in the game.
Well, it is, I think, going to follow Joel and Ellie. And I also, there's a lot of stuff we don't see in their journey. We only get 4 or 5 stops on their cross-country trek. Tons of stuff could have happened in between there, and you can flesh that out. You can include events in the game. I mean, I think you're going to basically be seeing, it's almost going to be like The Last of Us director's cut.
Interesting.
In a sense. Like, I think you're just going to get more fleshed out, tale of their journey.
Do you think the big story beats that are in the game are going to be there, though?
I think so.
Kind of like, the game was kind of structured as seasons. It's like autumn and, spring, fall, whatever. How does that work within the structure of a TV show?
I don't know. Well, the structure of the TV show is the most interesting part, because Chernobyl's structure is what makes it work. So the structure of how the game plays out is not necessarily how you want to structure telling the story in a non-interactive medium. So I think they are going to find a way to tell this story structurally that makes it fascinating. The Witcher tried to do something similar with the timeline jumping. I don't think they were entirely successful at that. But the way Chernobyl tells the story, where they kind of, a lot of Chernobyl's runtime is almost review. Like, it shows you what happens, and then it spends the rest of the season explaining it. And this, I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but the guy definitely knows how to tell a story in the most interesting structural manner, and that is definitely what you need when you're adapting a video game premise.
It's the
even
perfect
one
marriage.
As character and narrative driven as Last of Us was. You need to do something a little different, and I think they will get there.
Just the tone of Chernobyl, if I take that and then I lay it over top of The Last of Us, it's perfect. Perfect. I love that they're working with this guy. It means it's going to have a very grim tone. Yeah. Instead of being kind of slapstick, tongue-in-cheek like a lot of zombie stuff is.
It's going to be very true to form, and I think it's going to be, I think this one will be noticed.
I think it could be huge.
Yeah.
Like, it could, take over The Walking Dead's audience. The people who have lapsed from watching The Walking Dead, they could just all jump straight to The Last of Us.
And this is it's HBO.
Yep.
Remember, They want
violence.
They want another Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So they will throw resources and
Oh, yeah.
time at this that it needs.
I mean, the other part too is that it doesn't have to be censored. All the swearing, nudity, violence, all that stuff. A lot of the things that drew people to a lot of HBO's other big series.
I do hope there's not a lot of gratuitous background sex scenes in the last adaptation, but I see what you're saying.
I think we're hoping more for Game of Thrones than what was the vampire show that HBO had?
I was thinking of Game of Thrones.
Oh, I was thinking of the vampire show.
True Blood?
True Blood,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones did that too.
It did, yeah.
There were a lot of scenes that didn't have to take place in a brothel, but certainly did.
Yeah, and I wasn't complaining. There's nothing wrong with a little background eye candy, in my opinion. I am really, really, really excited for this. In fact, it's going to be excruciating to me to wait for this show. I am one of those pathetic people who still watch The Walking Dead every week. And
that is impressive.
I've even thought about doing YouTube videos that just count how many times I roll my eyes watching each episode of The Walking Dead. I think it probably is like 25 or 30 times. And yet, still every Sunday night after I'm done working, I will sit down and I will watch that dang show every week.
The lead actor in one of our short films is in the upcoming Walking Dead.
Oh, really?
The new one.
Oh, wow.
That takes place in, I think, DC.
Yeah. The thing with The Walking Dead is like hardly anyone watches it compared to how many used to, but it's still like one of the top rated shows on TV.
Yeah, you don't need to be too top rated anymore
for
any kind of mass media at this point.
You really don't.
Because Walking Dead is a metric I like to use, not anymore because the comic ended. But about 2 years ago or something, I was looking at the sales numbers, like they released like actual sales numbers for the comics and stuff. And Walking Dead was like number 4 or 3 or 4 or 5 for the month with like 40,000 copies sold. And I remembered back in the early 90s, they canceled the Transformers comic at Marvel for around issue 80, I think it was, because it was only selling 40,000 copies a month. And now that puts you in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
For the month. It's
how
like,
the times.
What a different era.
The times have definitely changed. But I think it's encouraging, too, because it means that you can create something that can sustain itself, and you don't need like 1 billion people to watch it every time. So I like that change. I like that everything's being a little more spread out and giving people more choices. So it's much harder for everyone to kind of pile on that single show. Now you still get that with shows like American Idol and Survivor and those
Masked Singer.
Those competitive reality shows still bring in like absurd amounts of people. I mean, to me, that shows the lack of intelligence in America in general.
Yeah.
But
although I don't know,
just me.
Have you seen the Masked Singer?
I have not. No.
It's fun.
Even Antonio Brown was on there, and I didn't watch it.
I'm just waiting for Gronk to get revealed.
He
is clearly the White Tiger, people. Come on.
Yeah.
We know this.
But look, of all the TV shows that I know that are coming right now, I think this just went to the top of my list. Maybe a Game of Thrones spinoff. Maybe he's a little higher.
You will see this before any of the Game of Thrones spinoffs are ready. I'm pretty sure. I mean, top of my list in the immediate future is Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Mandalorian Season 2. But in terms of stuff that's like on the horizon, yeah, this is suddenly up there.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, we're going to move on to our last topic of episode 202. Now might be a good time for you to get your questions into chat. Go at Sifted Games. That way it'll be easier. Also, since we're asking for questions so early, it'll make it a lot easier to find your questions because there'll be comments after I ask for them. The last topic of the day is what I talked about at the beginning of the show, which is Call of Duty Warzone. Just launched. What time is it right now?
2:18.
Just launched an hour and 18 minutes ago. This was also something that was rumored for a long time. People had data mined the code, and we pretty much knew it was coming. I think even maybe it had been mentioned offhand at one point by Activision, but I don't think anybody thought that it was just going to be shadow drop today, kind of out of nowhere.
No, I heard something yesterday, I think, that it was coming.
Yeah, there's stuff on Sifted.
It
yesterday
was really
we knew.
out of nowhere.
Yesterday we knew it was coming today.
Yeah.
And once that broke, then Activision released a trailer yesterday that showed it, and at the end it had the date for today. It is a Battle Royale game. Well, right, perfect timing with the B-roll. It is a Battle Royale game that features 150 players, which
Impressive.
is the most ever for a Battle Royale game as far as I know.
Yeah, what was that one game that said there was going to be 1,000 players?
It never came out. Yeah. Funny how that works.
Interesting.
Maybe they're still working on it. But as of right now, to the best of my
I'm sure
knowledge.
that's it.
Yeah. As of right now, to the best of my knowledge, this is the only game that has 150 players.
Wow, are there planes in this?
There's full vehicle support. Full vehicle support.
That's neat.
Oh, there's a shot in this, which is awesome. It shows a bunch of enemies standing on top of a building, and a dude flies by with the helicopter and chops all their heads off. It's great. Mitch, if you could dig up that clip. So it has full vehicle support. There's going to be 2 modes, one gigantic map that I'm guessing they're going to segment up for the modes. Mm-hmm. It certainly has, I believe, there it is. So freaking awesome. Replay it again.
Man.
But
how happy must they have been when they got that shot?
Yeah, but I know this is the type of stuff. Look Thanks, Mitch. This is the type of stuff, though, that's going to set you apart.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's getting really crowded right now, and people are like, what can I do with my Battle Royale game to make it stand out from the competition? Well, adding another 50 players helps. Adding full vehicle support certainly helps. Having the polish that you get from an Activision Call of Duty game. I mean, look, Epic, I would argue, makes games that are just as polished with Fortnite. But, for the most part, a lot of the games in this genre are either made by indie studios, or if they're not made by indie studios, they're made by a smaller team inside a bigger publisher.
Yeah, well, and also I think the bonus here is that, like, this looks fun without looking goofy like Fortnite does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so there's probably an audience that would prefer that.
And that's kind of my question. Does this become the new gold standard for Battle Royale?
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends.
It's free. Oh, we forgot to mention. It's free to play for everybody. You don't
have to own
You
World
don't
War
even
II
have
for
to
it,
own the
or
base game.
Modern Warfare at all.
Nope. You can go download it right now. Everybody.
Impressive.
It's pretty amazing. And so, again, that's why I think, like, maybe by the end of the week, it may be the biggest.
I mean, my guess
Black
for, like,
Ops, you had to have the base game
you had to have the
to
whole
play.
thing, yeah. So this, like, I would guess its main competition is Apex Legends.
Yep, absolutely. Old COD guys versus new COD guys.
Yeah.
And I would argue Apex Legends has been picking up its game lately. When it first launched, it just kind of sat there with not a lot of updates, but Respawn is finally starting to get in a rhythm now where there's at least enough new stuff coming to Apex Legends to where it's relevant. I mean, it launched, and then it just kind of disappeared. At least if you're someone who is really into games and you're on Sifted every day, it just kind of just went poof. So, with Activision's visibility, their ability to support stuff like this, like, I don't know what kind of budget EA has given Respawn to work on Apex Legends, but my guess is that Activision will not be shy with writing checks for this. It's a big initiative for them. It's not even called Call of Duty Modern Warfare Warzone. It's just called Call of Duty Warzone. So it's actually kind of like its own.
So they finally did what you said they should do.
Yep.
Basically.
They did. Yep. Which I thought they were going to do with Black Ops.
Right.
I was like, oh, it's just going to be free and they're going to use it as a Trojan horse. Well, now they finally wised up and they're doing it.
Well, this looks like way more interesting than the old Warzone.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it looks way better than what you got with that you paid for in Black Ops. I played that for like a couple hours and never went back to it. And I will say I fully prefer Apex Legends over Black Ops.
Like, I'm getting like old school Battlefield vibes off this thing.
Yeah.
Which Battlefield hasn't managed to pull off in a long time.
And don't forget, too, that the base game, Modern Warfare, does have like a Battlefield-style mode already. And that was a great primer for them because there's vehicles in it. And so you can start to like study the data. You can look at how players are using the vehicles, what they're using each vehicle for, and then you can use that to help formulate how you're going to spawn vehicles in your Battle Royale game. So it looks crazy polished. I don't know that I've ever played a Call of Duty game that was bad. I like some more than others, but I don't know if I've ever played a bad one. Ghost was close.
Is kind of bad.
It's
Ghost
close.
Yeah.
It was right on the edge.
That's as close as it gets.
I'll say this. I still made it through Ghosts. I only played the multiplayer for a couple weeks.
But I only paid $5 for it, so I didn't feel that pressured.
Yeah. So I have a lot of faith that this game is, one, going to be supported for a long time with stuff that's actually relevant and people care about, and two, even though I haven't got to play it yet because I tried to download it before I left and it hadn't gone up yet. But even though I haven't played it yet, I have confidence that it's going to play extremely well. The gunplay is going to feel really good. I do wish that it had, like the base game, I wish it had more movement options, better traversal options than Modern Warfare, what it has now. But I think the mass majority of people disagree with me. I think most people who play Call of Duty don't like the sliding and the wall running and the jetpacks. I think they just want to run and walk around. So I think I'm on an island in some ways on that. But I think no matter what you like from your shooters, I think there's certainly a lot in this Battle Royale mode that I think it'll probably resonate with just about everyone. So I'm excited for it. I wanted to download it before I came here. So when I went home, I could start playing. The timing did not work out. So when I go home and I'm starting to render the show and all that kind of stuff, I'll dive in. And I'll probably give you guys either a hands-on report in GameFace next week, or maybe we'll slide it into Sifted HQ for next Tuesday. We'll see. But I'm definitely, in some way, I'm going to tell you guys how I feel about this once I give it a go. But it's out there right now. It's free for everybody. PC, PS4, Xbox One.
Something to do while you wait for Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisp to go live.
That's a good point. Yep, because it goes, like 9 p.m. Pacific,
9 p.m. Pacific,
midnight Eastern. You can
9 or 8.
buy and play Ori.
Or if you have Game Pass, you can install it right now and just wait.
That's true. Ori, the initial reviews started going up today. We've curated like 4 or 5 of them on Sifted. Vince has been handling that today. Sky high review scores.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
I am. I've been, because we're.
Obviously, I like the first one so much. I always was excited, but it's like, it's one of those things like we've had nothing for so long in the release schedule that like I almost didn't even remember until today. It's like, oh yeah, that's today. Like,
you get into a malaise.
You're just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Video games are over forever. There's never going to be a good game coming out again. But no, tonight at midnight, Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisp goes live. It's getting huge review scores. I'm sorry that we weren't able to talk about it today.
Is it the most beautiful 2D game ever made?
Probably.
I can't think of another one.
I mean, when you
looking at some of those videos,
when you give somebody that much time to make a game like that, that's the kind of result you get. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier about Rockstar and Naughty Dog, time can smooth over a lot of rough edges.
And just like I remember when that Wolverine Origins game got an extra year because the movie got pushed for a year, and they just Raven spent the whole year just polishing it, and it was
ended up
amazing.
Being like good. Yeah.
It was like the only good thing that came out of that movie.
That's true. So yeah, I'm sorry we can't talk about it on today's show. I really would have liked to, but unfortunately, we're in this like B tier for review code. With Microsoft.
With Microsoft.
With some publishers, we're not. We'll get review code when like the big boys do, but with Microsoft, we're on the lower tier. And I've been going back and forth with them over the last couple days, and they kept saying they were going to send it, and then it never got sent, and they're waiting for codes from the developer, blah, blah, blah. Stuff you guys don't care about. But I just want to explain why we're not talking about it yet on GameFace, but we will absolutely blow this game out with our first deep dive next week, which is a big deal. So next week, we will be doing our first deep dives for you guys. For those of you who maybe missed the last couple episodes, or if you just can't tell, GameFace is shorter now. It's no longer 3 hours long, and that's because the really long conversations that Matt and I have about a specific game, it's being broken out into its own content called Deep Dives, and we will have the very first of those for you guys next week, so definitely look forward to that. All right, let's get to some questions here. I did not do as well this week with the time as I did last week. We're already at an hour and a half. But we're not going to bail on the questions. This, to me, is one of the most important parts of the show. So we're going to answer whatever you guys got. Justin Horman, I think we can all think about the big blunder Xbox had this generation. What were the biggest blunders for PlayStation and Nintendo? Did they ride through this gen blunder free? Great question.
Well, I mean, the biggest blunder for Nintendo was the Wii U.
Well, no. The biggest blunder for Nintendo was making the N64 cart-based.
This generation?
Ever.
Oh, ever?
That's the biggest. That's what I thought he was asking.
He's saying, did they ride through this gen?
I think that was his follow-up question. Or no, you're right. Maybe in the context of asking about Xbox, you may be right. But if the biggest blunder Nintendo ever made was definitely using carts in the N64 instead of a disk drive. At least that's what I would say. I'm sorry, Mitch, what did you say?
In Sony, it's $599 US.
Yeah, I mean they still kind of ended up winning that generation.
It's okay, but like I mean the bigger blunder there I think was
Cell.
What?
Cell processor.
Letting Ken Kutaragi go crazy on that.
Because all the third-party games ran like crap for the first 3 or 4 years, and that's what doomed them to second place.
Yeah, I mean, they literally the original plan for that was to have everything run through the cell, like no graphics card, no audio processor, no nothing. You just had to write code to make each cell processor be what you needed it to be. And they showed it to the developers, and they're like, no, like we don't want to do that. So they kind of crammed those things in there, but like. I have heard so many horror stories about having to deal with that hardware.
Interviewing developers back during that era, they wouldn't talk about it on camera, But
No.
you'd finish the event, and you'd be hanging out at the bar, having a couple drinks, and that's when they talk about it.
And then you try to bring it up to Phil Harrison, and you had to be escorted from the premises.
That was me. Phil Harrison hated me. He probably still does. If he ran into me someday, he'd probably still like turn and like walk away.
You.
What about Nintendo's biggest blunder with Switch? I guess that's what he's asking.
Like for this gen, I think. I mean, depends what you consider this gen. I would still consider Wii U this gen.
Yeah.
The Wii U.
Yeah. The big mistake.
I wouldn't say they've made a huge blunder with the Switch, other than not. The Joy-Con drift thing is annoying.
Joy-Con, I would say hardware quality.
Yeah, but they're fixing that for free still.
But my screen is scratched on my Switch, and it just in general, that is not something I usually associate with Nintendo.
No, Nintendo.
Usually, its hardware is solid state, top of the line.
The Switch is clearly an improvisation on a certain level that worked. I mean, it absolutely was the right call, but it's not as polished as Nintendo's usual hardware product.
So my Joy-Con out of the box never worked.
Yeah,
I suffered with it for like a year before I finally sent it in. I've now got my Joy-Cons replaced. Both of them are starting to mess up. So the one on the left, I got drift. The one on the right, the battery drains faster than the one on the left.
That's weird.
My screen has the lines across it from sitting in the dock. That's just not to me.
Mine probably has that too, but I haven't taken it out of the dock in forever. So.
To me, that's not Nintendo hardware. That's not what I associate with Nintendo hardware.
That's true. It's not.
FF8 Master C.
Sony's biggest blunder this generation might have been the refusal to keep up with crossplay and. Just the idea that they didn't need
arrogant
anybody
Sony.
else.
Going back to arrogant Sony. Absolutely. Next from FF8 Master C. What other Sony first-party game would you put out on PC to entice people to PlayStation 5? Another great question.
I don't know if it'd be enticing to PlayStation 5.
The Last of Us Part 1.
I would put The Last of Us Remastered on there to promote the TV show when the time comes.
Yep. And even maybe Spider-Man in a year or two. Because the sequel to that's going to come. And if you can get people into that and they're like, oh my God, this is the best Spider-Man game I ever played, again, the idea of buying a PlayStation 5 becomes much more manageable. So
also, Dreams.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet you get some really
imagine how
stuff
well
out of
that would work on PC instead of having to use a controller and motion controls to build video game levels. It would be a godsend. That's great. Justin Horman, 33 months of Twitch Prime, dude. I didn't even know that we were doing this for 33 months.
Yeah.
That's almost 3 years. That's crazy. Thank you, man. FF8
I remember
Master C, thank you.
I remember when I thought that that the months listing was that they'd pre-subscribe for that many months. I'm like, you think we're going to be around for 33 months? That's very flattering.
Well, that would be great if people could do that. The biggest problem with Twitch Prime is that people have to go back every month and do it. I wish they would just let people set it and forget it. Look, if people want to give their subscription to somebody else every month, that's great and that's fine. They just don't turn it on. They just don't turn on the auto renew for whatever channel they're on. I don't get it. But anyway, it is what it is. And I thank you guys who take the time every month to go and click that link. Even though I know it only takes literally 15 seconds to do it, you would be surprised how many people won't do it because it takes 15 seconds. So thank you. Commander Fet03, what do you think of Reggie going to GameStop? Well, he's not really going to GameStop. Will it save the company, or do you think GameStop is too far gone? So Reggie's actually just on the board of directors at GameStop.
They placed him on the board of directors as an advisor, basically.
Right. Yeah, so he's not working there. He goes to a meeting every month where they all sit around and eat really expensive food, and they talk about what's going on at GameStop, and they give their recommendations of what GameStop should do. That's basically what a board of directors is.
They basically stand there and say, I think you should do better.
And they get paid a lot of money to be at that meeting once per month. It's shocking to me how much people on boards of directors get paid.
Yep.
It's really crazy. So anyway, he's basically just turned into a consultant for GameStop. To answer your question of whether he's going to make any changes that are going to have an effect on their business, I don't think so.
I don't see what you could do.
I don't either. I don't even know why they did this. It just seemed like it was just a publicity stunt.
I think so. They're like, maybe if we have Reggie, people will like us again.
I mean, Reggie does understand some things. He understands what it's like to get product from overseas into your channels and then how to distribute that stuff. He understands how to market to the U.S., I believe.
Yeah.
I think he has a pretty good idea of when a game is going to be popular or not, which maybe helps GameStop with ordering. But other than that, man, I just don't know what he can help them with. They need somebody who understands retail strategy. So if GameStop can find somebody, if there is a retailer out there that's still doing well, and there aren't many, although there are some, my wife goes to these makeup stores that are mobbed. So there are some retail outlets.
Yeah, they should get some people from Sephora
right,
over
that's
there.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the company I'm talking about. That place, you go in there, it's mobbed. So there are some people who are getting it. Those are the people that GameStop should be putting on its board.
Well,
this was just a publicity.
You want to see makeup before you buy it.
Yeah.
Shade, you want to see what color things are.
You'd think a lot of people would want to see him play a game before they
Maybe, but
they
apparently
buy it.
not.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, now that you have demos and betas on
Yeah.
your console, it's like technology is making everything obsolete. Let's just be honest. It's
Yep.
going to make E3 obsolete. It's going to make game stores obsolete. It's the natural march of things right now. The McWomble. Do you have enough toilet paper and antiseptic gel in the studio? There's none. We have none of that. It is starting to get a little weird.
Yeah.
So I drove here today, and I live very close to our studio. It's like literally like 2.5 miles, I think. And I come here all the time. Every time I come here and I have to stop at stoplights, I'm always like the 10th car in line behind a stoplight or whatever. Average, probably the 5th car. I was number 1 in line at every stop. And trust me, in 2.5 miles coming here, I probably stop at like 15 stoplights. I was the first person at every stoplight. This city, it's like it's Thanksgiving like year round right now.
Yeah, it's like it took me a lot less time to get up here from Irvine earlier today than I thought it would. I've been to a couple places over the weekend that were shockingly empty. That usually aren't, especially on the weekend. The Grove is a major shopping area up near where I live, and Sunday there was no one there. It was literally no one there. Sunday is usually like you can't even get into the stores, and today it was nothing. And like, also I went to Disneyland last week because YOLO. Don't care. But I was at Disneyland and a couple other places over the weekend. I was at a show. I was at the Magic Castle. And I have waited in line to wash my hands at the sink in the men's room at all of these places, and that has never happened before because y'all are disgusting.
Oh, you want to know disgusting, Matt? So
like, men are washing their hands. That's what happened.
Some
here.
are. So I was in our
Not everyone, yeah.
I was in our bathroom here. I was like filling up my coffee cup, my mug with water, and a guy comes in, or had already been in there. He was in the stall, which is where you usually assume someone's doing number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like rinsing out my mug, and I'm starting to fill it up with water. He comes out after pooping, I'm assuming, and turns on the faucet, splashed his hands, and wiped them on his pants, and walked out. And I was like, talk about YOLO.
Yeah.
That guy does not give
I hope you ate lunch next. You
Some people just still don't
filthy
care.
animals.
Yeah. We're starting to see it here now. Like,
Yeah.
the coronavirus is starting to affect us. We're starting to see it in the city.
Yeah.
And
all
as
the
I
hand
said,
sanitizer's gone. I
as I said
had
earlier-
to kick a man to death to get a bottle of soap the other day. It was just, you know.
yeah. And as I said
But then I
earlier,
used the shopping cart wipes to clean my shoes off, so it was okay.
I said earlier, if you came to the show late, that the San Jose Sharks are going to play to an empty arena, which is really, really bizarre. Gohan Rage, what are the channel points they can use to give Sifted money like a Prime sub? I'm not sure what that means. You can donate on our Twitch page, twitch.tv/siftedgames. There's a donate button. Or you can just go to sifted.net/donate. And there's an interface there where you can literally donate whatever amount of money that you want to us. And I'd rather you would do that than go to our Patreon and just bump up your Patreon for a month. Because in this other system, our donation system, half of the cut is eliminated. Because when we work with Patreon, they take a cut, and then we also still get charged credit card processing fees. On our donate button, we just get charged the credit card processing fees. So if anybody ever wants to just like say, hey, I just want to give Sifted X amount of dollars, either use the donate button at twitch.tv/siftedgames or go to sifted.net/donate and use that. We'll get a lot more of your money that way, which is better for both of us, I think. Let's see. We got any more? AJ the Legend Watson. Any thoughts on Panzer Dragoon being announced for VR? I missed that. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Cool. But it's nice to see Panzer Dragoon in any form.
Yeah.
Like, movement is nice on that franchise.
What's
for
up
any
with
reason.
the Switch game?
I don't know.
What happened to that?
I don't know.
It's just like they showed it and then it just disappeared. So, yeah, anything Panzer Dragoon we can get, I'm excited for. ETH Demon, do you think with The Witcher doing so well and boosting game sales, as an impact had an impact pushing Sony doing just a Last of Us TV show?
No.
No.
That deal has been in
So he's
works
asking,
for a
like,
long
because
time.
The Witcher did well, is that why The Last of Us is happening?
No.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that deal was in the works a long time ago.
Yeah, they've been working on that. I'm sure they've been putting that deal together for a year and a half at this point.
Oh, Gohan Rage brings up a good point. Today is Mario Day.
Mm-hmm. March 10th.
Thank you, Mario. You've been a great friend of ours for many years, and if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I can say that without a doubt. So, thank you. Fire Native, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. 2 months. Maybe you just discovered us, man. Thank you very much. It goes a long way with us, man. It's not going into some bottomless pit of money like a lot of other Patreons, so we really, really appreciate it. Not Cirque. I just finished Ori on the Plane. Man, that was a lot harder than I thought. Yeah. Am I the only one?
Yeah, Ori has
I
some
legit
really
got
challenging
stuck.
parts.
It's hard. Yeah. You're not alone. And I suspect that Will of the Wisps is going to also have. Yeah. It's not.
I expect it.
I can see why people would look at that game and be like, oh, this is probably a kid's game.
A simple, adorable little thing. No, there's some hard line platforming in that.
That's why I love it. That's why I'm really excited to play it, because it's a game that looks like it's made for kids, but it's actually made for adults. I can imagine a kid playing
kids can do it. Kids can do it.
Yeah,
we did it.
They're good. You're right. I think
we did it in the games when we were kids were way harder because they sucked.
Yeah. I think a kid would sob uncontrollably playing that game, though. Yeah. I mean, it tugged on my heartstrings pretty hard. Like,
that. Yeah, I thought you meant cry because it's so hard.
No. Because of the emotional kind of angle of those games. It almost made me cry like a baby.
Kids are a little sociopaths, so I don't know. It might not affect them.
Let's see if we got any more. Yakov226. What do you think about Phil Harrison? Oh, I was just talking about him earlier.
We covered that.
Is he just unlucky, or he doesn't know what he's doing in the game industry?
I mean, he's pretty much wanted for triple murder at this point in terms of product launches.
I mean, let's be honest. I still don't. He's never really been a smashing success. No. I mean, I wouldn't say the PS3 was a failure.
No, but it took a while to be a success.
But they failed at launching it for sure,
and it certainly didn't dictate the zeitgeist. The Wii was the thing to have, and the 360 sort of defined what online experiences were. So
yeah. And he was also deceptive in the lead up to the PlayStation. Remember, he wouldn't admit that the Killzone thing wasn't real.
Right.
And then I got in an argument with him about what's the racing game with the mud. Motorstorm.
Yeah.
I got an argument with him. I was like, that was fake. And he's like, no, it's in the game. And I'm like, bro. He was delusional. Why does he fail?
I don't know.
I would say he's dishonest, and maybe that's a reason. I don't know. Why he failed over and over again in the industry, though? I don't know. I don't want to call him a liar. In his job, you sometimes have to fudge the truth a little. Mm-hmm. One, to keep your job, and two, to make sure that whatever you're working on is successful. So I understand why he wasn't honest with me all the time when I did interviews with him, but that doesn't mean it's okay. Any more? Dan Boy, are you going to do a sifted community play of Call of Duty Warzone? I would absolutely be interested in that. My one question right now is I do not know how the gamer tag is going to work, because in Modern Warfare, I am the real Dinfire, because somebody
took it
for the global
for the sign-in thing.
Right, the global part, somebody had taken it.
I imagine it's the same global sign-in.
It probably is, but it is a separate game. But
it's still Call of Duty.
I don't know this. Cross-platform play. I don't know if it's going to happen in Warzone. So if there is cross-platform play, that means I will be the real Dinfire. If there's not cross-platform play, I will just be Dinfire. So add me. I'm going to download it as soon as I get home, and I will be playing it over the next couple days. So if you guys want to get together and play it, sure. If we can get a whole squad together to play, then maybe I record it and post it for patrons.
Yeah. It is cross-platform.
It is. Okay. So I'm the real Dinfire then on Warzone. Let's see. Texture Glitch, thank you. 22 months, man, of Twitch Prime. That's amazing. Minority Games, thank you for the Tier 1 subscription through April. That's freaking awesome. And you have Vincent saying, yeah, cross-platform play. We got that from Mitch as well. And here's the last one. Cyber Exile. Now that Matrix 4 is a thing, you think we'll get a good Matrix game this time? Great question to close it out.
No, but I think it'd be nice to see them try.
Yeah.
I always thought the Path of Neo was a really cool idea for the game. Like the following Neo through his whole existence through the whole trilogy was a really cool idea. I would like to see someone try to do that again, but good this time.
Yeah. I agree with Matt. Probably not. I mean, licensed games still suck. Let's be honest.
Usually, yeah.
I mean,
Spider-Man is the exception that kind of proves the rule
outlier.
on that. Yeah. Or Star Wars, but
yeah. What did you say there, Mitch?
I will say Path of Neo and Enter the Matrix are my guilty pleasures. Like I really do enjoy those games when I was a kid.
I still feel guilty about Enter the Matrix because Dave Perry was so excited and he handed them all the review copies to me personally as we were leaving E3, and I carried them in my bag and I'm like, I got the Matrix game. It was so good. And then we played it. It's like, oh, it's not good. And like it just felt so. It was one of the only times I felt like I was like personally letting a developer down because he was so excited to give it to us, and it was just like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
But I think I gave it a 2 out of 5. I think that was about right.
That's definitely right. One Supermaster Gamer, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. 16 months. That's awesome. That's it for GameFace 202. Like I said, there's a brand new episode of Sifted HQ up right now at sifted.net and at our Patreon. Pactor Factor starts going daily beginning tomorrow. If you're subscribing via Twitch Prime, as a lot of you guys are, you now get Pactor Factor a week earlier at twitch.tv/siftedgames. But what's most important, really, is for those of you who listen to this on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts to help us out. Go to patreon.com/sifted. If you're listening to this and you've been getting the show for free, at least throw us $1 a month, man. Like, we're giving you like hours and hours
of
relief from your dreadful commute or your dreadful job. If that's not worth $1 a month, I don't know what is. So go to patreon.com/sifted. Give us $1 a month. Give us more if you like, but $1 a month, we'll take that. If you're listening,
give us $315,000 if you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
If you think we're as good as the Nintendo PlayStation.
There you go. There you go.
The Nintendo PlayStation doesn't even have any games.
Yeah.
We should point that out.
I do want to thank you guys for sticking with us for 2020 so far, because it's been hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been really hard to get these shows together, but it's all gravy now. We have games for the rest of the year. Like I said, next week we'll be launching our deep dives for the first time, so you guys will get to see how we're going to do long-form conversations about specific games.
We're 9 days out from Doom.
Yeah.
Like it's finally starting.
Good stuff. So
the rain is beginning.
Yep.
And the desert is ready to drink it up.
I am definitely that desert. I am ready to drink. So thanks to everybody who has tuned in during the first couple months of the year. I know it's been tough. It's been even tougher for us. Thanks to everybody who subscribed via Twitch Prime. Thanks to our patrons and our subscribers on Sifted. Without you guys, none of this is possible. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. You can find Matt at MKyle. That's MKEIL. And you can find Mitch, who's in the shower, at Mitch Sikor, SIKOR. Everybody have a great week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.